working in a fruit farm. And a few days before he died, he did write his own obituary.
One thing of interest at this site is this is a family plot. You'll see this in a lot of cemeteries. The headstone usually has the name of the family on it. In this case, Merrifield. These are the footstones. Footstones usually just had initials or the first name on them, sometimes just a date of death. Sometimes in some cemeteries you'll find a headstone and a footstone. Does anybody know why headstones were first put on graves? People were really superstitious back then, and they thought that the dead were going to come back to life. So if they put a big rock on them, they couldn't sit up. And if you've ever been in a morgue, people tend to do that after they're dead. They'll sit up sometimes. So it's kind of scary back in the old days, because these days we have it pretty sterile. You don't actually see the dead being prepared or anything, or after somebody dies they go straight to a morgue or straight to the undertaker. But back then they were laid out in their house, and you know, face it, it had to be kind of smelly and grisly. So sometimes they dig, you know, grave robbers would come and they'd dig people up and they'd be all puffy and red and gross. And that's where your legends of vampires came from. And the more superstitious people got about seeing gross dead people, the more things they wanted to put down to hold them down. So they had headstones and footstones, so those guys couldn't get up and come after them.
A lot of overtime for the grave diggers.
You got it.
Keep sitting up.
So this is a family plot. Sometimes in older cemeteries, in family plots, and also around individual graves, you'll see an iron fence. And this, some of it came from Ireland, where they believe that iron actually repelled evil spirits. So you'll see a lot of the older graves with an iron fence around it, and that's to keep the evil spirits away and protect the dead that's buried inside.
This grave site, the piece of equipment we want to talk about is here. It's a cigarette. Now, a lot of Native American graves, they believe tobacco is a sign of peace. It's a peace offering to them. Whenever we're on an investigation, we do allow smoking for the people that smoke. We always have a designated area for them. If we're out in the cemeteries doing a hunt and there's Native American people believed to be buried there, sometimes we'll leave our cigarettes there for them as an offering. So that's a good thing. If you're smoking, make sure you're in the designated area, because if we are out here in the middle of a cemetery and you're smoking and you're trying to take pictures, you're going to get what looks like mist, what looks like orbs. We've had some very good photos that we had to just completely discount because there's cigarette smoke in them. So we always try to keep that to a minimum when we're on the hunts.
And one more thing to note about Mr. Merrifield is, if you've heard of Merrifield Park, Merrifield Street, it's named after George here.
Whoa.
Oh, fall break with that. Buried here.
No, we're doing train wreck next. Just, I'm trying to save walking for people.
Yeah, it's pain in the butt trying to walk backwards.
So don't.
Okay, this grave here, this is James Cleveland Voigt. He was the first blacksmith in Mishawaka. His blacksmith shop was actually on the corner of Main Street and Mishawaka Avenue. I believe it's a photo studio now. It used to be a bank. That's where he did all his stuff. Well, the story about him is he was a very religious man. He was at a church service one Sunday, and those neighbors of the church was out there shooting a big Civil War cannon off. And he kept interrupting the church service. Well, he got mad about it. He went to his little blacksmith bag, took out a metal file and his blacksmith hammer, went out there to the cannon, put the metal file down into where you put the wick, and pounded the file in there, broke it off, and disabled the entire cannon. He was such a well-known figure in the town. Nobody questioned him on this. He got in absolutely no trouble at all. They actually thanked him for doing it. The other cool thing about him is that when he came up here, when he first moved to the area, he had a black slave. When they moved up here, you know, she actually became more part of a family to him. It was like a mother figure to him, his kids. He treated her very well. Whenever she died, he wanted her to be buried out here in the family plot. Well, the town got kind of mad about that, said, you know, they had their own cemetery, they couldn't be buried here. So he went ahead and buried her anyway, and buried her just in an unmarked grave right here on the family plot. So that's his story here. The equipment that we want to show you this time, IR thermometer. What this does is anywhere you see the little red dot, it'll tell you what the temperature is. We use this, as a lot of times people will say they have cold spots, hot spots in their house. We'll use this to actually track the cold spot. We'll look for vents, we'll look for open windows, any sign, any place that a draft could come in. That's what we're trying to find with this. A common misconception about these things is whenever you're using them, it won't measure a cold spot. It's going to go right through that cold spot and just measure the temperature that's on the wall. We have some of these that's specially made that has a little sensor probe that comes out in front. That's what will measure the area of temperature right in front. That's what we use to track the orbs. We've used one of them and actually tracked an orb through a room. It went around a table, through a patio door, out onto the deck, and about halfway through the deck it just disappeared. So.
Dude, you know how much I need a cigarette?
You got the light on that camera.
What?
You got the light on the camera.
I know, but I'm trying to point to you, that way they can see you when you're out here.
You have the flashlight?
What?
Oh, okay. I thought you had the camera light on.
No, it's a flashlight.
Okay.
I'm just using it as a guide. So people know what the hell who's talking.
Hey, there's somebody walking in a cloak over there.
You gotta slow down. You got like 60 people behind you trying to keep up. We know who you are.
Oh, I
His
know
is
they know
bigger.
who you are.
Yeah, that's bright.
You been drinking tonight, sir?
No, not till later. I've been up since 7:30 doing this crap. See our interview?
No, it doesn't work. That's why I wasn't here.
Check it on YouTube. Already bootlegged it, put it on YouTube.
That's what I heard.
It's crazy.
It's like,
On June 27th, 1859, around midnight, I believe it was the Michigan Railroad, which is now, it used to be the site of Playland Park. It's now Ironwood and Lincoln Way where the viaduct is. A train was going through. There was an extremely bad rainstorm going on, and there was a rivulet going through there. It got so bad that the area by the train tracks, which was mounted up, became like a dam, and the water actually got as high as the train tracks and washed the tracks out. When the train hit that, the train crashed. There were about 150 people on the train. About 30 people died on the train, and others died later. Some died just of exposure, some died of heart attacks because of the stress. Children, adults died. It was a very traumatic thing because a lot of the people that died didn't just die from being crushed, they drowned in the mud.
It was a terrible thing. The bodies, there was a doctor that lived near there, and the bodies were brought to the houses in that area, and the houses were actually used as morgues. Some of the people were never claimed, and they're buried here. They have, no one knows their names. This is just a grave with a monument to the dead from that train wreck from the people that were never identified or claimed or brought to another site for burial.
As a train crashed, I let out one final cry, and as I heard my dad screaming, I tried to get over to him, but my legs are broken, and he was taking me to the hospital to help him, and I drowned in the mud, and my body was never claimed.
One of the cool things that we want to talk about too about this one is we did an investigation at a person's home that lives right there behind the tracks.